essentially get caught way more than they should. And what makes Torque so effective is that he does not take chances. He's always just getting exactly as much as he can, and then he's out. It's very rare that Torque will actually die on his Sombra, and if he does, it's because a blatant error on his side. But he plays a very crisp version of that hero.
So one thing we're not going to be doing here, and this is, a few people have floated this theory here. So when we were looking at Sombra last time, remember when she was porting how the camera did all sorts of really weird things?
It goes below the map and then somewhere else.
Yeah, someone noted that.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do here, we are not going to be putting the camera on Sombra no matter what if she is played. It's just a no-go zone. Now I realize that there have been weird crashes without Sombra being in the game whatsoever, but who knows? That could be something that's causing it. So fans of Sombra, I apologize. We will be keeping the camera off of her, but you'll still get to see her shenanigans from the perspective of other people should she end up being played.
And to your point, Hex, I think Torque is probably one of the very few people that has scrimmed and practiced Sombra in a competitive environment since she came out. Maybe other teams like Misfits and FaZe have toyed with her a little bit, and we've seen them both play her with a little bit of comp play, but compLexity is really the one that has incorporated her into one of their main comps and run her several times on offense.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think that the ult charge is still kind of broken on her, and that although that is true, her win rate in competitive is low, so Blizzard is going to buff her, and then she's going to be even more OP soon, and then we will see her really be in a lot of comps.
Yeah. Well, opening things up here with the hook to put D.Va out of position, sets up Forsaken to fall right away. So now you have a 65 opportunity for compLexity as they're rolling onto the point and really just sort of ferrying FaZe away. This is not a bad engagement to open things up. And for now, it's working out. They're getting onto the point. FaZe has no choice but to back out. Harblu creeping to the backline, looking for an all-important hook to keep things going. D.Va's going to get in his face, push him back a little bit. But for FaZe, this is kind of rough for them. They're pushed out of the point entirely, and they've just given up a third, basically for free.
Yeah, that very first hook is kind of negated now as Lucio will join in the fray again. Another hook from Harblu does move Factor Fiction just out of the fray momentarily. He's going to get healed all the way back up. Going to get boosted now as he goes in. Both Reinhardts run into each other. Transcend is popped.
The one thing I will say, though, about how FaZe handled that, they didn't throw good money after bad. They did wait for Lucio to get back in. Unfortunately, Harblu does land the extra hook to start the snowball going against them once more, but it wasn't a bad response there by FaZe to drag it out and give themselves a chance of maybe bringing it back, but unfortunately, compLexity just had way too good positioning on the point. They get the first hook to get it back in their favor once more, and as a result, compLexity going to be taking point A relatively quickly.
Yeah, even though the fight was drawn out, they essentially got it on their first push because they never left after the fight. So the very first hook allowed them to stay in because the defense didn't want to engage without any sort of sustained healing. That's what Lucio will give you there, or any sort of really strong engage or disengage ability. So essentially with that one hook, when they fight, there comes the EMP. This is all but over already.
Quick EMP coming in here from the offense. It sets them up beautifully. Nothing stopping Nicholas from getting shot after shot on the 76, where again, that's the power of EMP, where it's hard to set up not nano visor, but just tac visor in general. But if you have the EMP come in, guess what? It is a full-on shooting gallery. It lets Nicholas get everything he wants to get and more. But here's the downside to the EMP. No one was able to use counter ultimates there for the side of FaZe, and they have 5 ultimates up going into this next fight. They can very well turn the tables on compLexity in this next fight if they play things right.
This is something you brought up before. It wins you that fight, but it puts you in a really ult disadvantage for next fight because obviously those can't be used against you. So you will decisively win the fight, but you know that the other team's not going to be able to burn anything trying to save their own skins, which is something that you almost need to happen in some of these fights.
Big growth shot coming down from Factor Fiction, and it's going to be Zombs right there at the cleanup. Tac visor mowing down 4 right with him. Was too easy, so a lot of ultimates are expended there by the side of FaZe, but they get exactly what they're looking for. They get the full team wipe, and they bring it right back, and they still have 3 ultimates up for the next defense, so it's a good way for FaZe to restabilize here.
They only used 3, that's why it was pretty impressive attack visor, or tactical visor rather, because he didn't need the boost from Ana. They just ended up using Earthshatter, a whole hog, and tactical visor, so they still will have the advantage, as you've noted. Going to be in a decent position here as they do look to solidify their hold onto second point, so see what kind of initiation the other team wants to do. You can't be waiting for Torque to have his EMP every fight. He doesn't build that fast. I mean, maybe.
He builds it quick, but you're right, it's not that quick. And Shadowburn actually getting hacked here, not able to come at the ultimate, but with the sound Soundbear, FaZe going to be way more aggressive. They pick off 2 immediately, and look at how deep FaZe goes here when they feel they have an advantage. Too easy, even going for the hook at the very end. Not going to land it, but still pushing compLexity back. And for compLexity, I feel like this might be the last run they have on Sombra, where they don't get what they're looking for off this EMP. I would definitely expect Torque to swap off and go for something else, but again, you look at Childburn, he's holding on to his self-destruct for quite a while now. Could very well come in over the top. Hollywood, one of the better areas to really catch people off guard with D.Va's ultimate.
Yeah, Torque dying was a rarity, and it really slowed him down. He would have had that ult up probably for the last fight, but they had to wait for it too. Now he's just about getting it now. We'll see what kind of position he wants to get into. It seems like, though, FaZe has it sniffed out. They're very spread out. Even the tanks on the ground are trying to stay far away from each other. So this EMP will come off. It only grabs the 3 tanks on the ground, though.
EMP does come off, but does enough. And lets Hardblue cook on the 2 easy early on. It's 2 quick kills here. It's Nicholas, again, having a free shooting range in the aftermath of that EMP. And you take a look at FaZe, they didn't lose as many people as they could have, but it still put them on such a bad footing for this fight that they're not going to be able to sustain. They lose people at a 3-to-1 rate, and compLexity is able to keep things moving forward. Now, the one upside here for FaZe is that FaZe maybe has a chance to bring this back here. You take a look where Shadowburn is. Oh no, he eats the Fire Strike. That's actually really big. He's not going to be able to get his mech back. They're going to be stuck in, again, an uneven number situation. So compLexity might get the second point now, more on the freer side than perhaps FaZe Blind. And oh my goodness, that Earthshatter just to make sure, X.
Yeah, but there's a couple also they've used just to make sure when they absolutely didn't have to. I think Hardblue might have fat-fingered a whole hog earlier. That Earthshatter on a single hero, Zombs, who was just kind of hanging around. You could have walked up to him with your shield up. You had a healer there. I suppose there were some people coming around in the back, but that ult economy could end up biting them in the end, because now they've got nothing to work with for this last point except for an offensive transcendence, not necessarily what you want to be using to push to last.
But the defense is still a little bit off balance here. This is where if Hardblue could just land one more hook, it would be huge here for compLexity, but he does back out a little bit. In fact, one further people back on his team. So compLexity is figuring out how they want to do this. They're going to have 2, maybe 3 good pushes left here. No. D.Va ultimate going into the backline. Everyone's scattering, but look at this. Hardblue gets a hook right after. Shadowburn having to run for his life. Lucky he's not knocked out of the mech, but still he's in a rough position for the rest of this fight, but it doesn't matter. Zombs comes in over the top with the tac visor and does enough to at least push compLexity back.
Yeah, Transcendence tried to save them right there, not able to get over to the targets who needed the healing the most. What is kind of nice for them, the silver lining, is that Torque got this giant pack, which right now might charge his ult, but it's also really denying it. Torque finds himself caught out, able to escape just barely though.
There's going to be one good EMP push left here for compLexity to bring this forward, and oh no, Factor Fiction dives a little bit too deep. Shadowburn gets a nano boost, but he's not in the greatest position to really capitalize on it. Gets one, has to back out. More kills going compLexity's way than not, and look at what they have for the finisher here, Hex. They will have EMP, Sound Barrier, and Tac Visor. This is basically where we expect the game to crash based on compLexity's last like 8 showings in Hollywood, but I want to have faith. compLexity could not be in a better situation right now.
Don't put that juju on me, Ricky. There comes the EMP right there. The Tac Visor should be in the follow. Factor Fiction goes down immediately. They do save the Sound Barrier for after the EMP, which is pretty nice, so that keeps them somewhat alive in this game. As not a full team wipe. Zombs is still alive on the point, trying to do something, as it is still so much in favor of compLexity right now. A last-second jump will delay it at the very least, but this should be compLexity closing out the map.
They are just about there. They just need a little bit more. Will the payload go to the end? Will the dream be real here for compLexity? They just need a bit more. Too easy. Getting hooked at the very end. D.Va coming in for the last one install, but all momentum in favor of compLexity. Hardblue, lucky live there, 79 HP, does back out just in time, despite the auto grenade, and again, compLexity is all in here with ultimates. The Transcendence on top of the point, and to FaZe's credit, they are stalling this out for a really long time, despite not getting any kills, just throwing their bodies onto the point. EMP comes out later on, 2 kills for Torque, and X, they're still delaying.
That was one of the most impressive delays I've seen in quite a while. Very sneaky stuff. A lot of individual efforts to delay it, and they almost got it down to overtime. Only 2.5 seconds left.
That 2.4 seconds, though, is incredibly important. That means now that if FaZe comes back and gets a time that's over a minute, no matter what, compLexity is still going to get an attack of their own. They won't have to worry about the situation where they don't get a second attack. Also, praise be to some deity there. We did not get a crash at the very end. I was sitting there just holding my breath, man. I'm just like, please, please, no. I've seen this movie too many times before. Hardblue, I mean, I know his fingers are pretty bendy, but he might just break them in frustration.
He was probably playing with them crossed. That's probably why we didn't crack.
Oh God, don't say that. That's just bad mental images, man.
It's pretty gross, totally gross. But yeah, they defeated the dreaded server error, which is their main opponent lately for compLexity. And yeah, that stall went in so long that they got a second EMP off towards the end. But that is just in FaZe's credit to be able to stall that out. Every time you thought it was about to go, there's another jumper onto the cart. So good for them, not able to get it all the way down into overtime, which is the main goal of that. It does not appear that FaZe will be running a Sombra of their own. In fact, FaZe looks pretty standard in their composition-wise.
This is about as standard gets here when you take a look for FaZe and their offense, where this is what we've been seeing over and over again in this meta right now, where you see, what is it? You have Reinhardt as the front line. D.Va's going to be there supporting it, keeping the Reinhardt shield up, trying to help you win the Reinhardt v Reinhardt shield war, and Roadhog is there not only for pickoffs, but also to put more pressure on the enemy Reinhardt shield. And the entire idea is that you have a really strong front, you win the Reinhardt shield war, and then once you win that war, your 76 is free to just poke down the rest of the team. Your Roadhog is free for hooks. There's a lot of positive synergy in this comp, as basic as it is right now for this meta, and FaZe very confident just running forward with it.
Essentially, you've swapped out Reaper for 76 and Zarya for D.Va. Other than that, the comps look pretty similar to what we've seen for a while now. Hardblue hiding in the corner, in the Reaper spot, as it were, looking for an early hook. Does find Raucus very early, takes him out. He might pay his life for it, but he gets some support from his team. They're actually just going to get 2 kills, and they'd be better served to back off.
And backing off is exactly what they're going to be doing here. I mean, what else can you do? Hardblue picks someone off really early. That's it. And that's sort of what these comps come down to when you're running the triple tank setup with D.Va, Roadhog, Ryan, is that you lose someone early on, you're not really going to be able to bring it back unless your Roadhog gets a miracle pick of his own. So now compLexity knows where their bread is buttered. Hardblue, though, going to fall asleep, and this is a good opportunity for the offense. They rush in, they're not able to get a pick off of it, and Hardblue going to escape. But precious positioning has been lost here from compLexity, as FaZe right now looks to move in, looks to get control of the cafe, and Hardblue still sleeping on the job.
Yeah, and this is positioning you don't want to give up. This is why you run the mace, so you don't end up back here in the corner. They do wall off Factor Fiction momentarily, but the follow-up charge does not get there. So using a couple abilities and getting 0 out of it as they continue to just poke back and forth on the point. That is 1 kill, though. Hardblue takes down Shadowbird.
Lucky the takedown Shadowburn there. He missed his left click immediately following a hook, but Shadowburn dies to the next one, and probably just going to be clearing things out here with the whole hog. Not a whole lot of pressure on him. Oh my goodness. Every sleep dart just directed right into this man, and it's actually working. It doesn't have distraction that he goes down. The rest of compLexity is still hanging on here, but it's going to be a while till Hardblue is back in this point here, Hex.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit. Torque and Nicholas do combine for a couple kills. They're too easy trying to get something going, but they're going to have to retreat yet again. This defense is looking really strong right now.
Defense is looking good indeed. 2 minutes left here for FaZe. Now, FaZe is really stockpiling the ultimates for the next push. They will have Sound Barrier to set things up. Factor Fiction got to roll in with the Earth Shadow. So this is very much, well, slightly in FaZe's favor. Well, ultimates up on the defense side. It will be a full-on ult showdown. And it's going to be the defense coming in first. Torque with the Nano Visor. Not finding much of anything here. The Sound Barrier really causing him issues.
Shadowbird is completely denying that boosted attack visor up top. They got nothing out of it as Shadowbird refused to go away. Ended up giving his life for it, but absolutely worth 100%. As Factor Fiction is now off the point and on the chase, and leaving Rock is completely exposed. Now he's going to get back in, but it's too late, big guy. You just let your support die.
Well, right now it is Torque versus Zoms here, but compLexity, they still have enough people on the point where, sure, they might be down Hardblue, but it's not going to matter. He's going to be back into the fight in a moment, should be in time for the next fight, and there he is, walking right back in. Torque gonna get back on top of the cafe, so it's a full reset here for compLexity, and Hex, now they're one major team fight away, really, from getting this first hold. Now, that said, take a look at FaZe. FaZe coming in, Shadowburn holding on to that self-destruct. I feel like the self-destruct might go directly into that cafe, just trying to bomb it and create space for the rest of FaZe as they come in, because that's really where compLexity is holding. But there's the hook from Hardblue, gonna pressure Shadowburn and not let him get that immediate self-destruct off.
Yeah, he's able to boost right back to the top to safety though, so no actual impact with that hook right there. They do continue to bank up ultimates here as they go forward, and it's going to be interesting to see where this self-destruct goes or what they're going to use to initiate. Self-destruct goes not quite in. He's just going to try to bully the 76 out there, and Zoms on his own takes down 5.
Yeah, so the real show there was Zoms. Zoms with the Nano Visor, able to kill 4. There wasn't enough of distraction there for compLexity. There wasn't Shadowburn. Sorry, there wasn't D.Va in his face to really deal with that, so as a result, if you can't take cover and you don't have a diva to run the throw in a soldier's face in that situation, can end up pretty poorly for you. So FaZe, they do cut through, but a lot of time has been cut off the clock here. compLexity's still in a very good shape.
Yeah, it was just really cool to send the diva up top so that everyone had to evacuate and go down lower, and what was waiting for them down low was a very angry soldier with a gun that doesn't miss, and that's exactly why they were able to clean up. Those 5 kills were a lot based on Shadowburn pushing them out. They are going to battle for the high ground now, something you don't often see on Hollywood now. Usually when high ground's taken, it's just see that Torque's going to come in towards the backside, but it's only really Factor Fiction hanging out here. He does take him out, but everyone else should be able to get out. Shadowburn's going to get hooked and desuited towards the end, and that will get cleaned up as Torque answers with his own 76 play.
Well, Torque just comes in, picks up 2 immediately, ends up being 3 as Shake finds Too Easy towards the very end. So compLexity, they do get pushed off first, but their response here in second has been very, very good. They are going to be able to get over the top once more. And you take a look at the all economy side of things too. It's not bad either. It's going to be very even in the next fight, and very arguably the next fight, especially if both sides burn ults here, Hex very well could determine the fate of this game. But with Blizzard up, it looks very good. Nicholas gonna get that Blizzard in, gonna freeze out at least the Reinhardt, zone the rest of them back, and compLexity able to buy themselves even more time.
That's a couple nice kills there, as they really just cannot find any footing to be able to start pushing this. Harblue's going to use his whole hog right up front there. Harblue is extremely liberal on his whole hog because he knows how aggressive he is on Reinhardt, or rather, wow, on his Roadhog, so that he gets all that damage going, so he doesn't really save it too often. That is a beautiful combination of a hook and a wall behind to completely eliminate Factor Fiction early on. That was cool.
And now for FaZe, this is dangerous. There's only 55 seconds left. They don't have much time. Torque finding Too Easy once more, and that is going to delay FaZe even more so. They were probably in a point where if they had gone right now here, Hex, they would have gotten 2 attempts. They're down to just 1 because of that pickoff. They will have a lot of ultimates to save for it, but so does the defense.
It was JKW and Harblu just out front fishing. JKW puts the shield up, Harblu just brings in the opposing Roadhog, and they take him down with the help of their DPS in the backline. It's such a cool set piece they have working.
Soundbear coming in here from both sides. Harblu, 1000 HP, off on the side, finds Lucio. Lucio's still alive, but not for long. Gets that key pick off. And look at this is Harblu weaving around the battlefield, going around the backside, finds Too Easy, hog on hog action. And even though Zom's got 2 kills, it's Harblu trying to bring it back, but Sleep Dart into charge. Suddenly rough shape, but there's the whole hog. Not enough, though, to turn it in compLexity's favor, and FaZe gonna be staying alive at least for a little bit longer here in overtime.
Yeah, here's the thing though, they have to push this card all the way to second without ever losing a fight, and that is a long way on this dusty lot through here. So really right now it is just needing one more fight for compLexity to take this. Torque's in a really nice spot on this kind of secondary high ground. Not enough teams have used, in my opinion, so he's gonna be up in position. They do run Too Easy onto a Tracer to try to screw something up so he can get back to this card, but that is a first death. They cannot deal with the Shadowburn went down first.
Harblu was really close to dying there, but was able to sustain, got out, got the rebreather, and oh my goodness, the Blizzard freezing too, setting up compLexity so well here. Torque's gonna get the cleanup they need, and compLexity coming out against FaZe in a error-free game, at least as far as the server is concerned. compLexity taking the first map here on Hollywood.
1, 2, 3.
Just so aggressive on those hooks. When they got first point, it seemed like they were going to have trouble just getting the cart anywhere, just pushing the limo to even 10 feet outside. And then when they got pushed back to spawn, against compLexity, you have to just stay in spawn as 6. You get 2 feet out of there, and there is a hook headed your way. And more often than not, it's going to hit.
So guys, I apologize here. Going back in. Let's just play the game. Then we'll talk about my sin. So we actually missed that on stream, but not on play of the game, as just mowed through everything. Nothing standing in his way, and that's quite the gaudy damage stat towards the very end.
Good looking golden gun.
Pretty good looking gun. Expensive. I mean, it is made of gold. Alright, so obviously you were on a little bit of a delay slash here, but what are your thoughts on that game from what we just saw there? Are you... So FaZe, it feels like they have really high highs, still really low lows. How much of that game was compLexity and how much of it was FaZe?
Yeah, the game is just ending now. I would say a good amount of that is compLexity. We've seen compLexity win these maps against some of the best teams in the world lately. And I think if you're going to go toe-to-toe with a same comp that they're running, you're going to have a tough time, especially with FaZe, who has admittedly never really loved this whole meta. and you have Zoms and Shadowburn, who are both playing heroes that, while Zoms is an incredible soldier, and Tui's has been playing Roadhog for a long time, Shadowburn doesn't really have as much experience on D.Va, and of course Shadowburn is an incredible player, but Torque has been practicing D.Va for quite a while now. So I would say that going head-to-head in the same matchup is going to be pretty tough for FaZe.
Well, for FaZe too, I mean, think about their identity going back, where so much of their identity really was on Shadowburn being the shutdown Genji, where they were trying to play Genji as much as possible. Obviously, now we're getting to a meta where you can't always run that Genji, and how much is that hurting FaZe here?
I mean, I would almost prefer them trying to run dive comp, at least on these first point offenses. I mean, we saw a team like, really cool guys even make it work earlier today, and they definitely do not have as highly skilled of a Genji / Chaser player as FaZe does. So if it could work for them, even against a triple or quad tank defensive setup, I would like to see FaZe try it out more. It seemed like they were more willing to do it on first point offenses a few weeks ago, and now they have kind of succumbed to the current meta of just sticking with triple tank, and maybe that's going to hurt them against the best teams.
So let me just ask you this, and I'll give this question to Hex here, but I was talking with Uber last night as we were watching the scrims and all the rest, and when you look at triple tank, and then you think about how teams like Misfits were able to deal with it, are teams running triple tank because it's the strongest, or are they running it because right now it's the most consistent, and playing the alternate ways here, like a Misfits might, requires a lot more execution and a lot more mechanical skill on individual heroes than, say, triple tank is of the Reinhardt D.Va Roadhog variant, where it's really just very consistent unless you're running against a team that has really special stuff to deal with it.
I think you hit the nail on the head, is that you have to have specialists at every single one of the positions, and you can't have a single weak link in your team to be able to deal with triple tanks the way that Misfits did. You've got Soon on the Tracer, and you've got Zebo and Nevix running the Widow and Genji. None of them can have a bad game for you to be like officially up there and shutting down tanks. And the type of coordination that it takes for what they were doing and how they were doing it is off the charts. And I think a lot of teams are scared to try to play that way, because if someone has a bad game, then you start like getting team chemistry a little rough. Like, why wasn't the Tracer there to finish? I did the headshot, he got shurikens, where were you? And it can really tear a team apart. So I think you need such a high level of mechanics on several different heroes, and the coordination has to be up there, that I think a lot of teams are probably scared to play it. So it is a more consistent comp to run tanks.
It seems like there's a combination of a few things. One, Roadhog. We saw prevalence of Roadhog even at the end of the previous meta anyway. And it really is kind of like a broken hero right now. It's a 6-second CD on an auto kill that hooks forever and reaches around corners and over things and under things and through walls and like all types of weird stuff. And that's continued. Then you had D.Va buffed a lot on the PTR, probably more than she should have been. She probably either should have gotten the health or the move speed. She got move speed and health, and because of that, she's just so good. You combine that with Reinhardt, and the Reinhardt D.Va combination, if you can work really well together, can make it very difficult for other teams. So you combine all of those together with lowered ult charge to making picks more important, and you have this type of comp that works out very well. The other point I would make is that on LAN, things are a little bit different, because from talking to the Misfits guys and talking to other teams, you can do triple DPS, double DPS comps on LAN much easier, just because of the way that those characters they work better on LAN, and they have some higher skill caps, and you can make that type of style work. I
mean, you say that, and yet DreamHack definitely was not running any sort of special client there. It was running the normal game. So, I mean, I get that. There's been plenty of events where you do have that higher tick rate and all the rest, but just in full debate here, that was definitely not at play at DreamHack.
Well, then I don't know what the hell Misfits is telling me, but
I mean, what you're telling me is that Misfits is telling you placebo, is what you're telling me, if they actually said that for Dream. So that just makes me question some of the stuff here, where, I mean, placebo effect is very, very real for players, just on a side note. Maybe Soon just thinks he's the greatest Tracer of all time, but only in person. But hey, I mean, for Misfits, that works out. They win big events that way. Either way, we are getting started here.
Oh,
Pretty standard
that
defense
hook.
coming out of FaZe, but with Harblue grabbing Forsaken, it could go from bad to worse here in a hurry.
Why are you even standing there as Forsaken? You know Harblue always looks for that hook. He hits it more often than not. It's a mistake you can't make.
It's definitely not where you want things to be, and now for complexity, this is exactly what they want. They have the 6v5 early on. It's going to give them a huge edge in breaking shields and all the rest. They are still running the Sombra, where Torque at kind of a piddling 20% ult, but it's probably because he didn't expect the defense to be going this far back early on. They will reinforce, but they're stuck in such a weird position that Factor Fiction already in rough shape, hooked down, discorded down, and complexity continuing the assault.
They are just rolling up through the top here. Shake being very aggressive. They do lose Torque to Zoms. He gets caught out, but that is pretty much the only kill that has gone against them so far. They're looking to focus down the Reinhardt. Not going to happen so far. At some point, you do have to deal with Zoms, who's gone pretty much unopposed up top. They are going to discord him. No damage coming in, and it looks like Too Easy has a mind to just win this fight.
Well, you say you gotta worry about Zoms, really Too Easy has been the real threat. He got to the backline and no one looked at him. He got several big hooks, and as a result, FaZe able to bring back a fight that honestly probably should have been Complexity's with how it started out. Complexity, you see this a lot, not necessarily from Complexity, but just in general, where teams get a few early pickoffs and then they overextend, they lose one, leads them losing two. And instead of winning a fight that they really should have won, they've made things way too easy on their opponents to actually get back into the fight.
So Raucus will have his on a boost at the ready that's about to go, and Harblue has full hog too, so we'll see. I mean, I think they're probably still waiting for Torque. He's so close to it at 90%. Probably just look for a little bit of poke damage and try to get the EMP, and that is how they're generally winning huge fights and first points.
So Arb right now hanging back a little bit, and Complexity definitely having a bit of trouble as FaZe is restabilized. And going to the next fight, they will have the Nano Visor on the way, and they're looking for that right now, where Zom's got hacked though. He's not able to use the Tech Visor, it just has Nano Boost on its own. Goes for the Visor late into the fight, but it's too little too late. He jumps on just as it's capped, so bit of a misplay there coming out from FaZe.
They gotta be a little bit careful of dying right now because they don't want to get those spawns that are low ground spawns and end up getting taken out. They do die late enough that they will have the back spawns, but that can also be its own problem as they're not going to be in position to take this high ground as cleanly as they would like to. Offense is going to try to rotate up and take the bridge away. They do exactly that.
Jawburn right now just getting on top, trying to help the defense restabilize. Can't go too far up. Has to very much respect Harblue's hooks here. And oh my goodness, did that just happen? Pulling Shadowburn into the abyss with him. Shadowburn gonna get knocked right out of his mech. Harblue says, let me take you for a ride, and down goes Shadowburn right away. What a great play by Harblue there, man.
He flew right into it. I think he was going to try to bully him off, but he forgets about Hook being there, and that is the one anchor you don't want to be tied to. Nick was getting very aggressive up front, kind of staying behind as the shield has been already cracked. JKW in a precarious position now tries a desperation Earthshatter, gets nothing. The other Earthshatter gets a couple.
Diva ult coming in here from the defense does take out one, but Complexity firing right back. Harblue getting the pickup that he was looking for. Gonna pick up the hacked health pack. We'll be able to get up here in a moment here as well. Definitely feeding Sombra some ult, but fortunately his team dying all around him. Still staying up and around, using that health pack pretty well here, but it's Harblue versus the world right now.
Well, he is going to get some reinforcements from Nicholas, but Nicholas dies immediately as he went in to try to help him. So perhaps better served to get out of there earlier if at all possible. And maybe that was not the case, but they're going to have a ton of ultimates to work with in 2.5 minutes in this shuttle phase. But shuttle phase can be so brutal to just find your footing and figure out where you're going to attack. They are playing around this EMP greatly right now. Look how spread out this team is.
They're very spread out. I mean, that's the type of respect that you have to give EMP, where at the very least Forsaken needs to not be in that EMP when it goes off, so you have the ability to bring things back. But Complexity, they're going through this tiny room here. They're taking advantage of the fact that the defense doesn't really want to be too grouped. They are giving EMP some respect. Meanwhile, Nicholas waiting for that EMP to hit so he can drop the Tac Visor and get a decent flanking ultimate off.
Yeah, but they're all hanging out in the shuttle. The defense is playing so patiently right now, knowing that the EMP3 is a major threat. They do get a huge EMP off, though.
EMP is off. Nicholas moving right in. Not able to get as much as he wants. The sound barrier comes down right about at the same time. Keeps people reasonably well protected. 5v5 here on the point. Complexity gun, burn the Transcendence. They are all in now on this payload. It's still somewhat back and forth, though. The defense doing a good job of hanging out. They're pushing Complexity back a bit. Shadowrun even gonna pick up the kill on the Showmeister, so FaZe handling this very well. They've withstood the assault of the EMP, and now they're pushing Complexity back.
Just nice plays overall. Shadowburn squished onto the Zarya, got a spam kill towards the end there, in the middle of that fight, and just really smart to be able to sustain during that. They'd lost a couple early on, did not force the fight with uneven numbers, played it as passively as possible, waited for reinforcements, and now defense in a great position. That's a full reset, and the offense has 0 ultimates to try to get in here.
Watching your back.
All right, 1 minute left here for the side of the complexity offense. FaZe doing a great job of keeping them out, and you take a look at Zombs. He has the attack visor here, should be popping this sooner rather than later, and there it is. Attack visor in over the top. Joe Meister going to fall. Nothing stopping Zombs from ripping this back line apart. It's going to be too easy on Zombs in a shooting gallery. But here's the downside here, Hex. They won this fight so quickly that there'll actually be another attempt here from the side of complexity.
Fair enough. The only thing stopping Zombs from ripping the backline apart was that Too Easy had already gotten there and feasted. So they do trade out a couple kills. One last push for complexity as they go forward. They will have Earthshatter. That's about it. Not sure how useful that's going to be as everyone is spread out on different levels. Earthshatter does have a bit of a cone, but not that much, as they do try to boop them off onto the bottom. Just they don't have the tools to really deal with this. They're going to have to bait them onto the cart and then fight.
Well, Shadowburn just going to drop down with the Graviton. Too Easy already winning the Battle of the Hog. 6v5 in favor of FaZe. They don't get too much off of that Graviton, though, so complexity still with a shot of turning this around. You see Torque right now fighting Zombs in the back. Zombs somehow got himself in a real pickle here in the back line. Will go down the Torque, and slowly but surely, complexity now starting to grind this back in their favor. They don't have to worry about the 76 anymore, but they do have to worry about the sound barrier. Defense making their final stand, rushing in, and the Transcendence a little bit too late. Not in time to save the rest of complexity. And Torque perhaps fighting an uphill battle, but for now, it's still a chance.
It was so close to saving his Reinhardt back there with the healing, but they did end up segmenting him out. The Zoomyata a little bit too late. That's it. That is as far as the cart is going to go. FaZe has their marching orders. Simply get to second point, and you will take Watchpoint Gibraltar.
And then we'd be going to a map number 3. So interesting to watch that pan out there, and it just felt like complexity, more so than anything else, they didn't have great options for actually engaging in the hangar phase. And that's a downside, I feel like, when you run a Reinhardt, is that on hangar, especially the way they're running it with the lack of flankers and all the rest, they really had no way of making FaZe feel particularly pressured. In the end, FaZe was able to stay up top there. Didn't have to worry about people coming in from the back. Didn't have to worry too much in the way of serious diving. And they got comfortable, and really, complexity had nothing that they could do to actually remove them from that comfort zone.
Yeah, a second point of Gibraltar is just brutal, and to have them staggered on so many different levels was so smart. To just spread them out against the EMP and then to spread out against the Earthshatter. There was just no one ultimate that was going to lose them the fight and lose them the game, and I think that they just don't want to put themselves in a position where one thing can kill them. They're playing around their enemy pretty smartly. So yeah, as I mentioned, just have to get through second, but we'll see if there's any shenanigans coming out on the defense. It does not look like it. Looks like they're running pretty standard here. I would love to see something a little different on the offense, but I think we've kind of settled into a pretty standard meta lately. I mean, especially with Misfits out of it. I guess the one wrinkle is that complexity will run the Sombra, but not on the defense generally.
Defensive Sombra, it's weird because when we first started seeing Sombra, we saw Sombra used exclusively on defense. Granted, a sample size of a few days, not necessarily the longest time for it, but still, that's when we first really remember seeing Sombra. But now when we've been seeing it more often, it's been complexity using it on the offense. And for complexity, this is about as standard gets here in Gibraltar. We're going to be running 76 in the back. The Mei is going to be looking for a bit of control. Although, the few times we've been seeing Mei recently on first point Gibraltar, it's without a Reinhardt. It's just, you get a little bit more flankiness on your defense, but they're staying with the Reinhardt and the Mei, and a lot is going to depend on them getting those good walls to set it up, Hex.
Yeah, the walls in the washing machine, or the car wash rather, are going to be super important, and then how they can react to them. That's generally why you're running a Mei here, so that through this point right now is when they come a little bit too far, you start walling them off and trying to eliminate them afterwards. They see the Mei and they're going to have a different plan. I think they're going to rotate everyone up over top. They might just rush in server room and try to fight through there. It looks like that's the plan.
Go. I keep you here.
In the offense right now, they're taking their time. They know that all they have to do is get to the middle of hangars, so they're not necessarily working against that much time pressure. Now, there's always a threat of getting held at first here, but for FaZe, they're definitely working along the assumption that they will get through here eventually. Too Easy, though, getting really low early on. Lucky he wasn't picked off. The defense of complexity collapsing,
Oh,
but perhaps
it's
a
a
little bit too
huge
hard.
kill.
Nicholas has been picked off.
That's a huge kill. That is part of the main strategy here, right? Running a Mei on this defense, and she's dead. JKW's dead. That is a lot of the big part of why you want to run both those heroes, and they're just absolutely scattered now. 6v4. They're not going to get back here in time to even fight this. They shouldn't, and yeah, they don't. Shake is still alive. He's going to get picked off towards the end as well. How bad did these spawns end up hurting? They are still on the hunt. This has been all FaZe rolling through Hangar.
Hex, how ridiculous of a hold would it be here if complexity somehow came back and gridded this out with a little under 5 minutes to go?
5 minute second point hold is ridiculous, but this is Gibraltar. If they win this first fight and reset, then it's not that far out, because they need to establish some sort of high ground. They're not gonna have it though. They're gonna have to fight low ground, but if they win this first fight, it becomes less ridiculous, I'll say that.
There we go, JKW drops the Earth Shadow, gets absolutely not a goose egg. Meanwhile, Zom's ripping things apart in the back, picks down 3. That could not have gone any worse for complexity and FaZe, making it look easy. This payload just gonna leisurely roll to its final destination. FaZe Clan going up here, evening up the series 1-1.
Zoms went in that old Reaper spot on the tail wing of the shuttle and did drop down just like Reaper 2, because tack in the backline, when you're getting the tack visor like that, squishies died pretty much as quickly to tack visor as they do a Death Blossom. It's just not as showy, so you can use them much in the same way. That was very much a very Reaper-like drop from Torque there on his 76, or Zoms rather, my apologies.
But again, coming out here from the one and only Shadowburn. Don't see Zarya plays the game all the time, but just good, solid play here, running down, melting people down,
Yeah.
and all the rest. So 1-1, and gonna be heading to a final map number 3. Pretty much what you expect from both these teams, and truth be told, with how much FaZe is so variable in their games, pretty much par of the course for them, I would say.
All right, final map going to be King's Row. It's going to be interesting to see if we see Sombra here. She has been run here before. I feel like it's a little more difficult to run here in my opinion.
I mean,
So-
you do have the Mega
Yeah.
at movie theater, which is very close, and it would make sense. It is a little bit too of a tight packed map for it to work out to, I think, to the fullest extent. I don't expect to see Sombra coming out from complexity. Maybe I'm wrong. I think FaZe did have a pretty good offense in the game that we saw earlier, but Method, as an update, they did lose 2-0 against Immortals. So Method, although they played well, they probably aren't as good, especially considering the new players that they have. And
Right.
Method was able to kind of run over FaZe, at least on their offensive side. So although the FaZe's offense is good, FaZe is going to have to put up a much better defense. If they want to win this map, I actually got to give it a little bit of favor to complexity here.
So I just realized, were you Sombra cosplaying that entire last segment there, Hex? Did not see a camera. Wait, is Hex even there?
I think I had camera up. It was
Okay,
probably
so-
frozen, you know, mostly frozen.
All right. It does happen. It's been known to happen. All right, so getting in here to King's Row, of course, a map both teams very, very well acquainted with. Although, that said, Slasher, who do you give the edge here? You are the map guru, where you enlighten us with wisdom and matchups and all the rest. Going in, who do you like going into this?
I really do like complexity a little bit more. Wasn't super impressed with FaZe's defense last time, and I think that if you get run over on your first or second attack, it becomes a lot more difficult to hold the street phase, especially with the lowered ult charge, because if you lose either first or second team fight on defense, more than likely you are not going to win the ult battle. And if you don't get ult really until the very end of the second checkpoint, the offensive team might take it straight away. So although FaZe's offense went pretty well, complexity has always played, I think, pretty decently on this map. I'm gonna let's see. I think it's up to Zoms. If Zoms does a whole lot on Soldier, which we've seen Soldier make big plays on offense, on defense here, I think he's gonna be the key for this map.
One thing I'd also note here too is that even when FaZe has been at their best, when Shadowburn has been Genjing people at the height of his power, King's Row has never been the absolute best map for Genji for a handful of reasons overall, but as a result, it's never really been FaZe's favorite map to begin with, just because they were really reliant on Genji in the past. So I do think that there's a slight edge to complexity here as Harblu just looking for that all-important first hook.
Watch your six.
Well, there is a turret on the field for this Torb, so Forsaken has not given up the Torb dream just yet. This is something we used to see work, I want to say 6 months ago. Envious used to run this. Internet Hawk used to love playing Torb on this map. It's pretty much the exact same turret position too. As a huge EMP, that should be a pretty nice opening to this fight for complexity. That's all they were waiting for. They get 2 kills. There goes the turret as well. Another turret gets set up, but it's not long for this world. They would be better served to just back out. Forsaken does the right thing, gets himself killed this Torb.
I gotta say, holding as a defense on this particular point and dealing with EMP seems to be like one of the most difficult tasks in the world, just because there's not that many areas to stand to avoid the EMP when Sombra inevitably goes in. Sure, you can stay really far back, but given the hassle of actually getting back in the point for Kings, that's almost the same as giving up the point. So Sombra openings on Kings Row first definitely seem to be strong, or at the very least, Torque is doing a very good job of making it feel strong.
So that is about as quick as you can take a first point. Yes, it did take a long time to build up the ult. Well, long, relatively speaking, for Sombra, but once they did get in there, they were absolutely in there. So the Sombra on first point Kings, definitely a thing as Torque continues to get to the back line. They have found him, but does he escape? He's still messing around out back there, and he's going to have EMP here momentarily yet again. They have to do something to try to play around this, knowing that they haven't killed him. Here comes, again, EMP.
EMP is out, and that is a signal to go here for complexity. 2, now 3 kills immediately on the way out. Harblu gonna pile on a little bit, but even though Nicholas is laying up the kill feed, you gotta give credit where credit is due. Torque's EMP hit just about everyone on the side of the FaZe side, and as a result, complexity just steamrolls their way in with ease. And we've seen complexity do this a lot now, where when their Sombra is rolling, it's really rolling, and teams do not have a great answer for it.
But why Torque is good at this Sombra is because he doesn't die right there. He exposed himself to 2easy right behind him and then just translocated away, baiting out the hook, allowing his team to come in knowing that the hook is down. So Harblu's going to take down Factor Fiction. He plays the Sombra so well, so cleanly, that's why the ult is up. He's never dead.
So, 2 extra kills here from complexity, and FaZe just seems to be falling apart. They fed 2 extra kills there that they really had no business feeding. Like, 2easy should not have been that far up, full stop. And they will have 4 ultimates coming out here from the side of FaZe, but they've been on the back foot the entire time. Now, they don't have to worry about the EMP here. It is 5v5.
They finally took out Torque, so this should be a fight that they win. Zombs did get a couple kills. Now it's time for everyone else to use their ults as JKW got in there for a couple.
Well, it's not. The thing is, for complexity, Shake's Transcendence works out. He ends up getting 2 kills as a result of it and keeping his team up and alive. So, complexity keeping the momentum going forward as Shake picks up a third. The Zenyatta carry at the end is real as complexity going to move it forward. 4 minutes and 39 seconds left on the clock. That was a shellacking if there ever was one.
I believe in a very intelligent person at DreamHack said Shake is one of the more underrated supports, especially when he gets to play as Zenyatta.
That'd be Hex.
Would that be the
I
analyst?
don't know. There were a lot of
hexagrams?
people at DreamHack. It could have been anyone.
So, I mean, this
What
map,
was it, X, the guy that does not have unnecessary letters in front of his name?
He's a truncated hex, that is for sure.
So this map really was what I thought may happen to FaZe. I mean, you saw the defense kind of break down against Method earlier. Method not on the same level as some of the best teams right now, and I have complexity really as maybe the best team in North America, and that showed why. 4.5 minutes left to go. FaZe was really never able to put up a strong defense. They got run over on the first team fight, and because of that, you know, ults kind of spiral out of control by the time they get the third.
One kill.
No matter what here for complexity, I feel like even if they got run over, they could still feel pretty good, because the odds are high that even in one of the worst defenses they could possibly hit up, they would still have a better time than FaZe here. That's just how good their offense was.
That offense was insane. You don't see offenses like that much anymore. And Kings Row with 4:30 left. That's about as fast as you can do it.
I mean, FaZe finished this map earlier with 3.5 minutes to go. They're going to need the same type of pace if they want to have any chance of taking this series.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the scrims have yielded, that they feel super comfortable running the Torb, but it has not worked out on Hollywood or Kings, and I wish that it did. I would love to see more variety on defenses, but so far it gets nothing. It so far has gotten very, very little. That at this point, I much prefer what they're running on this defense, and just the Mei. I think Mei is just superior in both situations.
So Forsaken gets off the Widow, goes to Lucio, pretty much as expected. Meanwhile, take a look here at the defense. Defense just going to be looking to use the Mei for a little bit of extra control. Torque gonna try and be incognito in over the top. Definitely doesn't want to meet anyone up here, though. Certainly, people on FaZe want to meet him, and he has to bear in mind that hook, because if he goes towards the side there, he's going to be taken down. Oh my goodness, Zoms goes to challenge him and immediately regrets it. Gets juggled up by the Helix rocket, and down he goes, so Zom's gonna die early on here, and that's gonna really stall things out for FaZe. They have to wait for their soldier to come back.
Come on, check your microphone, ZP. Is your mic good? Okay, okay. Well, as we work on those audio issues, they are still holding kind of a little further back here as they do come through. They are going to rotate up top. It does appear as they're not going to get stalled out here. Too Easy is going to go for the hook up top, but this is a strategy we see from a lot of teams trying to get in when you are running against a Mei, so they're going to be stuck in the corner. They do end up seeding the low ground, though. There are two people get segmented off, and that is not how you want to roll in. They lose Factor Fiction. There goes Shadowburn. Rockus takes down his counterpart and Shake, but it is not going to be enough. Torque will come in towards the end. They got a couple kills now. Trading out on Kings Row, usually a pretty good thing. I just wonder if those trades were enough. The reinforcements should be coming up for the defense pretty quickly, as they lost a Lucio, I believe in that, so they should be able to at least run everyone back pretty quickly. Should be about 6v6. There's a small window where the offense can come in and take advantage of the people missing. Oh.
Well, they are trying to get back in right now. Torque does finally get knocked off his perch, but he hasn't really been under pressure this entire time. Still drilling Factor Fiction from a long way out. Gonna activate the Tac Visor. Here's the Nano Boost, and oh my goodness, set up by the Earth Shatter. Torque gonna have himself a dinner at the buffet. Picks up as much as he wants there. Ends up with 4 before it's all said and done. And compLexity, not only did they have a blazingly fast time, but they're now starting to scratch on the door of having a full hold, and FaZe just looks out of sorts right now.
They need to find something here, and I think a lot of it is going to be Rockus and Zoms. They're going to have to get a huge amount of value off of that, but can they pop the shield first? Factor Fiction's got an Earthshatter too. That can win you a fight. They're going to get grabbed first, so they try to reflexively Earthshatter, but they get completely walled off. Blizzard is doing a lot of work too. That Earthshatter got nothing.
Earthshatter didn't knock out a whole lot, and the Graviton for Harblue didn't do too much either, but he does chase down Lucio in the most intimidating ways towards the very end. And compLexity, again, they can just push out the remaining attackers here without losing one more. They very well could be getting this first hold here, Hex. FaZe, they've been switching up. They haven't really found an option. You have Factor Fiction now on the Winston, and they're just going to try and keep the pressure going, but they're bleeding people. It's not necessarily the one. What a great ice wall to stop that hook.
The ice walls have been absolutely on point. Nicholas's game, I think, the last time we saw them like online, and then what we've seen him at DreamHack, and now he has stepped up his game to a magnificent degree across several different heroes. He has been a brand new champion, and right now, 50 seconds left for FaZe to even get first point. Yeah, I mean, not like this, FaZe. Not like this.
Well, here comes Shadowburn trying to go full hero mode. Sound Barrow's down. Graviton is in, but they get no kills immediately following the Graviton. The follow-through was not there. 5v5 on the point, and compLexity still with the ability to bring this right back. JKW will fall, but it is a slobber knocker right now. Both teams trying now, and the Blizzard comes at the very end, will freeze that nano boosted soldier, and as a result, compLexity fighting this right back on the verge of winning this map outright on point A. Torque at 3 HP, not phased in the all, no pun intended, but does get hit by Shadowburn towards the very end. Respawns are coming in, and finally, FaZe might, through the power of attrition, be on the way to taking this point.
It is attrition for sure, as finally the trades start tipping in their favor. They do get a Graviton to clean up a couple. Shadowburn is in there as well, though. Now, Factor Fiction, this is still so back and forth. Zoms does have the visor going, so he should be able to clean up a couple. Harblue making it very difficult for them, though, as he's on the Zarya, actually getting a ton of kills as well. That is the third kill for Harblue.
Harblue melting down 3 people at the very end. It's not supposed to go down that way. Not a Zarya that is running out of teammates. And we're in the middle of overtime right now. Tac Visor in. compLexity still running back to this point. JKW and Torque cleaning house. And there it is. The first point hold for compLexity will, in fact, be a thing. It was looking like FaZe was going to bring it back, but no, they do not. compLexity showing dominance on both sides of Kings Row. And as a result, FaZe going to lose the series.
That was bonkers and bananas all at once. I mean, I guess you don't play complexity on King's Row, huh? Jeez.
Play of the match.
That was pretty rough. That was.
I think the really good thing for me is just seeing Harblue have that level of contribution on Zarya towards the end, because there's sort of this prevailing thought in the community that Harblue might be somewhat of a one-trick pony right now, where what's going to happen if Roadhog comes out of the meta, which at some point will be a case, but I gotta say, if he can put together a Zarya play like that, you know, even if the worst happens to our friend Roadhog at some point, still could be bright times for Harblue.
Slasher, what do you got?
I mean, FaZe just looked kind of outclassed on King's Row. There was a point where, although King's Row was a map FaZe always wanted to go to, there was also a time where King's Row was auto-banned out for FaZe, and I think we might be heading back in that direction. I've always really kind of questioned why FaZe likes to ban out Eichenwald and Nimbani, considering they have one of the best Genji players in the world, and those maps are still able to be played in a similar manner to Gibraltar. So I'm actually looking at this, like, the bigger picture. If I'm FaZe, I throw King's Row back in the ban phase, and I expand the map pool to either Nimbani or Eichenwald, and I try to take more maps there. And for complexity, they just look really strong. I think maybe it was a little bit of a misnomer at DreamHack that they didn't do as well as they had wanted to, and earlier today, they got probably a little bit tilted against Immortals. They were winning both of those maps. They might have beaten Immortals 2-0 if those crashes didn't happen. So beating FaZe maybe shouldn't be as a surprise to anyone. I think complexity is a great team right now, and we'll see them more in the playoffs tomorrow. We actually do have a three-way tie, for a 2-1.
A true three-way tie. So
Yeah.
We'll have to investigate that if need.
Admins.
If need be, we will play a few extra games tomorrow to settle that. If need be, certainly nothing gonna happen there tonight. But I will say this here, Slasher, one of the biggest themes with FaZe, and you've sort of added onto it yourself with your experiences with them, is the idea that FaZe is a more emotional team where when things go bad, sometimes they go really bad and all the rest. Now, complexity had a very, very good offensive run, but to have both sides of the coin there on a map that FaZe has definitely played quite a bit in their time, where complexity comes in, sets a ridiculously quick time, and then FaZe just looks completely anemic on their offense and gets held at first. Literally the worst of both worlds there for FaZe. How much of that was FaZe not having a clear plan, and how much of it was actually just mental after complexity really rocked them on their attack?
I'd say it's about 50-50. I think they showed they weren't exactly top tier in Kings earlier in the day, and they've shown recently on this map against other top teams that they haven't been able to maybe stand up as much as they wanted to, and then also getting run over that hard without winning maybe more than one team fight as they did against complexity. Knowing them and how they kind of respond, the map was probably over as soon as complexity reached the finish line on offense, to be completely honest. So them getting full held maybe shouldn't be as big of something to notice as if that didn't happen. Like, more than likely, FaZe might have taken point A at least if they didn't get completely kind of torn apart on defense.
All right, so that does bring us to the end of the stream here today. Hex, any final thoughts before we take off?
Yeah, sorry. Someone has to figure out how to deal with Sombra, because if not, you're just going to get rolled over by complexity. He plays such a good Sombra, mistake-free constantly. There has to be a better way to deal with it. No one's found it just yet, but letting Sombra just get EMPs constantly on your team is not a way to win maps.
Yeah, I have to agree with Hex. I think Sombra, just because of her ult, is broken right now, and that more teams really haven't been abusing it as they should. And as we know, competitive Overwatch, you should abuse the meta, abuse the hero as much as you can. And Sombra needs to be abused more by other teams. I expect her to be included in more teams' comps rosters within the next few weeks.
Alrighty. I couldn't agree more on the Sombra note, by the way, just as a closing note, just because you take a look at it, nothing else, having it as a switch up where you can pull it out and see if the other team is actually dealing with Sombra well. I mean, why not have that in your bag of tricks? Complexity certainly, I feel like, has stumbled onto something that Wouldn't be surprised if more teams started adopting as time goes on. I mean, that was the same case with Ana too, right? Where Ana took a little while for people to really start mixing in, and suddenly Ana was everywhere. But guys, that is going to bring us to the end of our broadcast here today. We'll be back same time tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, to bring you the elimination matches between these great teams. One team will be the winner of the Alienware Merry Melee. Can't wait to see who it's going to be. A lot of good contenders, but all of that will be decided tomorrow. And guys, we'll see you next time.